name is Dan Stewart, and I have a photo exhibition at the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre from January 5th to January 29th. Went to college in Ontario, and then as soon as I finished college, I moved out west to university to Kamloops, BC. And from there, I got to play outside and stayed out west the whole time. So I haven't been back other than to visit. So, yeah. When I finished university, it was the first year of the ski hill opening here in Revelstoke. So I just saw an opportunity for just to grow with the community as it was putting in this new resort, and just thought it would be a great place to move. I came here for a reading week one week and absolutely loved it, and that was my goal from then on, is just to move to Revelstoke and stay here. It's been my home for almost 14 years now. Photography's always been like on the back burner, especially when I was in school. I did take like a 2-semester long photography black and white film course, where I learned how to like take photos, learn about composition, and I learned how to develop film and do like the whole analog side of things. And that was really fun, just to kind of get my toes dipped into it, to learn some history, to really kind of get some sort of foundation, I guess you can say. And then from there on, I got like a small little digital point and shoot camera for as a gift for Christmas one year, and I just always like enjoyed taking the process of photography, and just it kept going and going. And then from there, I was working for the railway in Revelstoke, and I got laid off, and in the 2008 financial meltdown, and from there I was able to somehow get like my first photo contract, just kind of like a hobby job with Tourism Revelstoke, and went from there. So what I do these days is I shoot a lot of like heli skiing with Selkirk Tangier's heli skiing, and then also I shoot like some of the top skiers and snowboarders in the world, and same goes with like water kayaking. It's really hard to talk about myself this way, but like I think I just entered this world just being in it, just kind of like having the passion and having the drive, and I think it paid off. So yeah, I love action, as it shows in like a lot of my work. So when it comes to just shooting like whitewater kayaking, skiing, deep snow stuff, same with snowboarding. Revelstoke is the perfect home for what I like to capture. So that's my main stuff that I love, and then of course I'm a sucker for just a nice, gorgeous landscape shot here and there as well. Yeah, so during the pandemic, we had a lot of time at home just to look and research, and I stumbled across some infrared photos, and I was just so curious what was going on. So it's these landscape shots with like red trees where they should have been green, and just the color change made the photo look like otherworldly, and it piqued my interest. So it's just really out of curiosity, kind of just went from there and like learned a lot more about the whole infrared photo taking process, and it turned out to be quite a trip, and hours and hours and hours of research to learn like what was going on. One big question that I had was, why wasn't any action being taken with these photos? It's always seemed to be like a landscape shot. It turned out that with if you were just to put like an infrared filter on your camera, it would take like a 20 or 30 second exposure just to capture anything. So to really capture action, which is what I was kind of wanting to do with this infrared once I learned about it, was that you'd have to get a camera modified. So you'd have to actually send your camera, like a normal camera like this, and get it sent to like a service center, and they actually remove some filters from the sensor itself. And then from there they apply on like an infrared filter, or you can get like these interchangeable filters as well. But anyways, I was just blown away by just the otherworldly aspect of it, but yet still feels quite familiar. So infrared photography is I'm taking photos of a different light spectrum than what our eyes can see. So the human eye can only see certain wavelengths in our light spectrum, which is what you know, what we see. And then for infrared, the wavelengths are actually longer than the normal visual ones. And so a lot of like chlorophyll and vegetation reflect a lot of infrared light. So that's what the camera is actually picking up and is like translating into that red kind of color. It was developed early on in the 1940s, actually, for Second World War, for military applications. So it was used to detect camouflage in like a forested environment or jungle environment. Fast forward 20 years and people were finding out that there's other applications for this kind of film and infrared photography, and we're seeing it like on album covers for like Jimi Hendrix and artwork, and then fast forward like to now, we're seeing it being used on digital cameras, and there's had to be like a bit of a new kind of wave of infrared photography happening kind of right now. And it's just, yeah, people are getting their cameras modified to be able to pick up on infrared light and kind of mimic that first kind of style of film photography that happened back then. What happens on this camera is that when you look at it, the white balance is completely off. Everything almost looks orange coming out of the camera. And then from there, I have to actually do some post-processing on my computer for it to come out in the colors that we're used to. Just the white balance is completely, this camera can't operate in the proper white balance that we need, so I actually have to do some modifications and reduce that white balance drastically, and then from there it works out really well. Yeah, other than that, I go from this camera. This is my first camera, and I learned a lot. Focusing was really hard with this camera, just based on that the wavelength of infrared is different than what we see. And the same thing goes for focusing. When this camera is focusing for our visible light, when it should be focusing for infrared light. So the only way to really focus with this camera is to use the live view on the back and focus it manually with the screen so that we're focusing what's going on the sensor. Then I learned all these mistakes because I found that to be quite cumbersome, and I switched over to using just a mirrorless, just a regular, like not regular, the newer kind of mirrorless style, where the focusing is happening onto the sensor regardless, and it just happens so much faster. This camera too is just, it's smaller, it's more compact, it's easier to handle. And the cool thing about this is that instead of this camera is only shooting at a specific wavelength, this thing is modified to be full spectrum, and then I can choose what wavelength I want to shoot in by just taking this lens off here. And then I have these drop-in filters here that are specific to the infrared level that I want to use. I'm hoping for that like initial response that I got when I first saw my first infrared shot, which was like, this is quite a familiar shot, but like, what is going on? Why? The questions, why are the trees red or the vegetation red? Why does it look so kind of otherworldly, yet so familiar? And I think just enough to have like those slight questions of this altered reality that I'm trying to present, and I think that's kind of fun. It's just a new creative way to kind of take some of the photos I love to take anyway, so yeah. I think it's all of the above. I really do enjoy working with the skiers, boarders, kayakers, whoever that I'm playing with in our outdoor environment. So yeah, I love being out there. I love the people that I'm working with. It's always a collaboration of trying to get like this wild idea onto a photograph. And then, yeah, I also do love the post work as well. Sometimes it's like it gets a little crazy, but like for the most part, it's a fun process as well. And then along with the relationships of working with clients, brands, whoever, and it's just a lot of fun just being on my own kind of timeline and being in the driver's seat in that regard, like for work. So I love it. It is a lot of work, but you know, just keep at it, and keep at it, and keep at it, keep at it, and keep at it. And then my second word of advice, and I think it goes for a lot of professional photographers out there, is just know your worth, and just make sure that you always stand up for yourself, and that you are getting what you're valued. You can find my website. It's at danielstewartphoto.com, and then also I have an Instagram account. It's at danielstewart_photo. What you can expect to see in my show is a mix of landscape and action photos that are mostly from like the local British Columbia area. it's all going to be infrared. It's all yeah, just my adventures that I've gotten to take in the past couple of years of this infrared adventure. So yeah, I hope people like it. We've got these skis and board in the show as well, and they're just slightly different from the rest of the show, to say. So they're just a little more out there. The sky's green compared to like what would normally be a blue, so just more modified like colors. And this is more of a representation of like where I'd like to take my infrared photography in the future. I've had a lot of fun with this medium that I'm showing here at the show, but this is like a sneak preview of what's to come in the future.